there are lots of different ways to assess SAOs. A few examples that we're going to go over today. You could use data your service area already regularly collects and stores. Maybe you store stuff in Banner, some other campus storage system, your office share drive, but all of the service areas are often collecting some sort of data already. That can just be used, that existing data, to assess SAOs. You can use data from the Office of Institutional Research. Several folks in this workshop do that. And you could also create a survey or do focus groups in order to assess your SAOs. So let's go into a little more depth on each of these. Let's take an example of an SAO that could belong to a financial aid office. Financial aid will consistently work to make processes for award processing as efficient as possible to maximize students receiving their financial aid in a timely fashion and the awarding of the SCIF supplemental metrics. So lots of different ways to assess this. Maybe you could do a reflection in a staff meeting about how to make processes more efficient. You could devote a whole hour to thinking about how do we make award processing as efficient as possible, document the results, and maybe you come up with a process or policy change for your office in order to become even more efficient. I know you already are really efficient, but that could be an assessment for that particular SAO. You could look at, what is the average time for file completion notifications to be sent year over year, and take a look if there's any changes in that from semester to semester. You could look at the date, like last fall 19, on October 17th, all files were completed, but this in fall of 20, it was October 15th. Look at that, we're continually improving. So lots of different ways to measure this particular SAO using data that your service area already is regularly doing or collecting. Another way to assess your SAOs is with IR data. IR has lots of data. So an example of being able to do that might be that admissions and records will use technology and processes that maximize the awarding of transfer degrees and certificates of achievement in transferal general education patterns to support students reaching their educational goals and awarding of the SCIF success metrics. So here's a couple possible ways that they might assess that with IR data. We have a handout that illustrates that we continually increased degrees since 2015-16. And then we also have a handout that illustrates the exponential increases in the awarding of certificates of achievement in transfer general education patterns. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute so that Indra can show you what those look like.
Sure. These handouts are on our IR website. So really quickly, this is the handout on degrees and certificate. You'll see that the handout shows how many degrees and certificates are awarded every year, every academic year, and then the trend over time. Then this is the other handout for certificates. So similarly, the number of certificates is aggregated by certificates of achievement or certificates of proficiency year on year, and then the trend over time too.
And all the way at the bottom of that spreadsheet, you see the CSU general education breadth and the intersegmental GE transfer curriculum. And if you look in 2015-16, they're at like 29 and 4. But if you look in 2019-2020, they're at 249 and 147. So that's the data point. If I were A&R trying to say, hey, our processes are increasing, or at least correlated with awarding these GE education breadth certificates, I would probably pull that data point from IR's data. Thank you. All right, so I'll go ahead and share again. All right, so Indra and Na and I sort of have dictionaries in our heads of all of the data that we have. But we understand that you all might not have that, and we don't expect you to. So Na's going to give us a quick refresher on just some of the typical data that you can access on the IR website, or that you'd be able to request through our research request form. And as Na is sharing all of these different data pieces, what I would ask you to be thinking about is hold those SAOs that you just wrote in your minds and think, oh, does this data point have anything to do with the SAO that I just wrote? So I'm going to hand off to Dr. Liu.
Thank you, Cynthia. Actually, Matt just put in chat that for 2021, and our handouts hasn't been updated yet. You can see, it just go to 1920, and for 2021, yes, we again are awarded for over 1,400 degrees, over 100 increase from last year. So that was quite some increase. Yes, exactly. So I'm going to share my screen.
Which of course is the whole college's accomplishment, and processing them was certainly A&R's leadership and support. Thank you for recognizing that.
Yes, great work. I just want to help you review one of the potential examples of SAOs, because I'm going to find some data from IR to see, how can we assess campus safety, for example. One of the examples for campus safety is they want to ensure students, staff, and community will report that they feel safe while on campus as a result of campus safety practices and policies. I'm going to use some of the examples from our student satisfaction survey and employee accreditation survey to give some data points to assess this SAO for campus safety. So this is our IR's homepage, chabotcollege.edu/IR. It will take you to our IR's homepage. On the left navigation pane, you will see student data, and then survey results will be the where you need to go. And then for employee survey results, you need to go to employee data and survey results. If you click on survey results, it will take you to a few quick links. And for 2019 survey is the latest survey we conducted. Generally speaking, we conduct this survey biannually every other year. And this year is different due to COVID-19. Our students are not on the campus, so we'll postpone it for another year. Anyway, if you click on this, it will take you to all the reports we produced based on the fall 2019 student satisfaction survey. And here is all about detailed results. And here are some highlighted reports we produced in our office, and you can review them after this webinar. But I will take you to this overall results. And it's a long document. So normally what I do is, since just now we talk about campus safety, I will just search for some words like safe. It will take you to, okay, there are two places on this report which you can find safe or safety. And then this one is about, whether students have heard or used your service. And out of those who have used your service, how many of them showed the satisfaction level? And the next one answered the question we just showed, the SAO we just. So this question asks, overall, do you feel safe at Chabot? This data point will help you to answer that SAO question. How many students do they report that they feel safe at Chabot? 77%. So we ask, in addition to safety questions, we ask a lot about, what are your experiences and how satisfied are you with all these STEM center, library, a lot of service areas at Chabot. So you can search or you can review this report, just find your area and see what are the data points which might be able to help you with your SAOs. Yang, you have a question.
I have a comment.
Good.
So because I worked with many of you on the draft of the ICER, I can tell you that when I look at everyone in the room, all of you have data that would connect to your SAO in these surveys. This survey and the accreditation survey, which we cite throughout the ICER, has feedback on counseling, veterans, learning connection. It's actually all here. And could easily be used in your, to assess your SAO. From my perspective, I mean, there could be some areas that you want to do some additional assessment. We also already have a lot of assessment, and the major improvement we need to make is on documenting it in program review in that little box, putting the SAOs on the website, and just so that we are recognizing our own work.
Thank you for the excellent comments. Right. I think on the Excel sheet, I saw mental health. They actually already cited our data as one of their ways to assess their SAOs. Library, ANR, I mean, I can't name all of them, but almost all of the service areas we were trying to assess them in this student satisfaction survey. We also break down the results, survey results by race and ethnicity groups. So if these are the racial and ethnic groups here, let me make it larger so that you can see it clearly. So basically for all of those questions, we break it down by racial and ethnic groups here. I mean, if you want to search for that safety question, again, how does each racial and ethnic groups experience or feel safe at Chabot? So you want to see, which groups you probably need to provide more services to them. If you can see some DI impacted groups here.
Now, can I give one more example to connect
Sure.
to earlier? So like DSPS just had that SAO about making sure that your services, I can't remember, like are promoted equitably. And so you might want to take a look at the satisfaction data broken down by race and ethnicity groups to see if you're promoting your services equitably.
I think this is this one, right? Like how satisfied with DSPS services by each racial and ethnic groups. So you want to skim the data in this row and see, which group you want to serve more or promote your services more. That's a great example. Okay, I will only go through two reports from the SSS survey. And another survey I think people might find helpful is the employee accreditation survey. The thing with this survey, it takes a lot of time and we only do it once every 6 or 7 years. But this one is really recent. We did like in the past spring, so it's very recent. And if you go to this overall data, again, just take that campus safety as an example. There are some other questions related to campus safety, but here there is this question again, for all employees at Chabot, how safe do you feel on campus during daylight, during evening, and at night? So you can use this data point to assess your SAOs as well. So this is about, again, these questions are organized according to the accreditation standards. If you can just scroll through them, there are 10 pages of them, see whether there are anything relevant to your service area. Another piece of data I want to talk about is also related to student survey results. Every other spring, we also conduct student transfer and graduation survey. If you click on this, data on the transfer graduation survey are posted here. And for example, for transfer center, for career center, you probably want to take a look at these surveys. They talk about, how long it took our students to graduate, to transfer, where did they transfer to, all those questions. You can skim through these reports. Another place I think the data might be useful for service areas is this success and outcomes tab. If you click on that, it would, there are some quick links. There are a lot of success rates and persistent rates reports on this web page. And there is also this programs interventions that increase success at Chabot. you click on this, it's getting slow, sorry about that. Okay, so we actually publish some reports about special programs and learning communities. I'm going to show you one of the examples of what we did for FYE. One caveat is that, you know, a lot of special programs are doing great things. However, your cohort sizes might be too small for us to track or for us to provide you with some quantitative data like success rates or persistence rates. For programs like FYE, they serve more than, you know, over 150 students or around 150 students every year. And we actually are able to track their success metrics along the way. So you can see, you know, depending on FYE's SAOs, they can use this data, compare FYE's performance to all new students and to see, you know, how FYE students did in comparison to all new students. Apparently they did much better. They have higher persistence rates than new students, other new students. So that's the example of what we did for special programs and learning communities. We also provided data for Puante. They have larger cohort sizes. So, you know, it depends on the cohort sizes. We can provide some quantitative data for special programs.
One other way to assess your SAO could be through a survey. So for example, one of IR's SAOs is to provide the Chabot community with data for evidence-informed decision-making. So IR assesses with a survey. We send out an annual survey to all users. Hopefully many of the folks in this workshop, I know many of you received data, so hopefully you're some of the folks that filled out our survey. Thank you. And the two questions that we put on the survey that we see as related to this SAO is, did OIR provide the data requested in a format that was easy to understand? So our philosophy is, if you can't understand the data, then you certainly can't use it for evidence-informed decision-making. So we want to provide the data in an easy to understand format. And then we actually just directly ask, you know, did the data provided by OIR help you make evidence-informed, evidence-based decisions? And we take those two, the answers to those two questions in order to assess how well we're doing on the SAO. We also have an open-ended question on the survey that just, if people disagree that we did not do those two things, we ask them to provide us with some concrete feedback about what we could do differently. And so that's maybe where something could come in around a goal, some sort of feedback that they've given us of things that aren't working out well, and maybe we can use that to create a goal for how we can do better. So a note on this is that surveys take time to run and analyze. So we do the survey and then we have student assistants to help us make it look nice, post on the website, right? So this is, a survey can be time consuming. So this might not be the best method for this par cycle, but it's something to just know about, that this is a typical way of assessing an SAO. And so we've been bouncing around into several rooms, and we're hoping that Sadie and Lael will just discuss a little bit of what we discussed to give you a couple of examples of going from here's the SAO and here's how we're thinking about assessing it. So can I hand off to you first, Sadie?
Sure. So I've working by my lonesome self here for mental health, but appreciated Cynthia popping in. The SAO is to promote access to mental health counseling services to support students' well-being. And I was first putting coping skills with that, but we distinguished because measuring two different things is easier if we separate them. So the first one, with focusing on the well-being, we're using the IR satisfaction survey. And then for the one that we developed second, which is to provide mental health counseling sessions that support students in developing coping skills. For that, we are going to do a survey for when students complete sessions for mental health counseling to get a sense of if they have increased their coping skills. So one being more of an internal survey we give to students that have received our services, versus the other one that has to do more with the college-wide survey that goes out to students.
Awesome, thank you. And so to clarify, that survey that you're giving to students who've used the counseling sessions, that's something that you're already doing, is that correct?
So we have a survey, but we don't have a specific question about coping skills. So we would add that to the existing survey.
Great, okay, thank you. And Lil, do you want to share a little bit as well, please?
Sure. So I am with Foster Kinship Care Education, FKCE. I'm actually just going to share my screen. And we provide, training for foster parents. And so I came up with like 3 and sort of landed on 2. And one, and I, in consultation during the breakout rooms, I got some suggestions. So I have to kind of wordsmith it out a little bit. But provide high quality caregiver training on the impact of children in foster care to assist caregivers in providing, it'll be something around healthy, I just need to decide on the language, effective care for the children. And I'll be looking at using our evaluation. So, because we don't really work with students, we work with the county. Each of our trainings, we do a feedback survey for the parents who participated. And so we will be, we will be using our questions in our survey around how do you, how well did your trainers present the material, to what extent were you able to learn from it, and how effective do you think it is going to be in your caregiver, or going to be, how effective do you think this was in helping you to eventually become a better parent? And we kind of had to think, about what it's going to do for them, because, they'll do the training and then we can evaluate that, but we can't evaluate, 6 months down the line to see how well they, incorporated what they learned into their, parenting. So, we have to think about the training and sort of assess their belief about how this training is going to support them. And then we also did provide appropriate training hours to meet the needs of the resource family population. We have a couple hundred parents. We need 8 hours of training per year. So it turns out into a couple thousand hours. And so, just basically the contracting process with that is its own beast. And so that's what we did. And we'll do that in collaboration with our county partners whom we speak with regularly.
Thank you so much for that. So I think that that last 2 examples were actually really great in sort of illustrating the difference between the ideal evaluation and the real world evaluation. And I feel like that first one, like you're getting pretty close to that ideal. Like you already have this survey, you're assessing the quality of the caregiver training you're providing. I mean, that's fantastic assessment. The second one, we're just looking at, like, you got to calculate how many hours are needed and you're doing a check to see if you're providing the hours that are needed. Like, that's real world. It's pretty quick and dirty, but both of them meet the requirement of taking a look at your SAOs in terms of, and you both of them are improving, right, the service that you're providing. You want to make sure you're providing enough hours. So both of them are still helpful. They just, at different levels of how much time you have to put in to do it. And both of them meet the requirements for accreditation.